Members, welcome to another live edition of Track Talk from Tokyo. A lot of sprint action tonight. Rai Benjamin, 46.52, is controversially your 400-meter hurdles champion. For the first time, he has won a world title in that event. Femke has won another world title. So has Melissa Jefferson-Wooden. Dominant fashion, she completes the double. And when it's not the Olympics, what does Noah Lyles do in the 200, Jonathan? He wins, but what a race. 4 abreast with about 50 meters to go. But Noah gets it done. American mid-D and distance fans, we know you've had to wait for that first American medal, but we've got 3 men in the men's 5,000-meter final. Jakob Ingebrigtsen will be there as well. Andres Almgren will not be, nor will Niels Laros. We'll break that down. Al-Wakali's not in as well. We know a lot of you, particularly on the West Coast, did not see those heats because they were super, super early. Women's 800-meter final is set. Sage Hurta-Klecker has done a nice job in her first Worlds outdoors. She's in the final. And there was an incredible men's triple jump. For all you jumps fans, we'll break that down. But folks, look, it's been a wild Worlds for us. We're 13 hours ahead. We're tired. We know you must be tired from watching the World at World Hours, and you need to get some sleep. Second half of Worlds will be brought to you by AGZ. It's a nighttime drink designed to support restful, restorative sleep. It's a melatonin-free sleep supplement formula designed to improve your sleep quality. AGZ is formulated to support your body's natural rhythm, not override it. The unique blend of easy-to-absorb ingredients works through each phase of sleep and rest to help you relax in the evening, get quality sleep, and wake up rested without grogginess. They've been sponsoring the website AG1. Now it's AGZ. So thanks to them. And Jonathan, where to begin?
I think we have to start with the 400 hurdles. Rai Benjamin had some comments like, well, it wouldn't be a world championships without a little controversy. So had to keep some drama in there. And it actually reminded me a little bit of the Cole Hocker incident from a few days ago, because it was another thing where, if you look at the letter of the law in this situation, it was technical rule 22.6.3, I believe, was the one at issue here. And it was, about hitting a hurdle and having that hurdle then interfere with another lane. The actual language in the rule book is that failure to do so will result in disqualification. Sorry. Each athlete should go over each hurdle and keep to their own lane throughout. Failure to do so will result in disqualification. In addition, any athlete should be disqualified if they directly or indirectly knock down or displace a hurdle in their or another lane in such a manner that there is effect or obstruction upon any other athletes in the race, and or another rule is also infringed. And what we saw here from Benjamin, he attacked the hell out of this race. It looked like he was going for the world record that was set on this track in the Olympic final 4 years ago. He said afterwards, no, I wasn't chasing the record. I was just trying to win. But he knew against the athletes he was up against, the quality of this field, he had to run fast. So he went after it hard and started to open up this big gap. And I was thinking, maybe he could get the world record. He was so far ahead down that home straight. But then he starts tying up because he was running so fast. Hits hurdle 10. And in doing so, his contact with the hurdle causes it to hit the hurdle in Ezekiel Nathaniel's lane on his inside. And that hurdle tilts, it shifts forward clearly by several inches, maybe close to a foot at an angle. And then the question is, does that affect or obstruct Ezekiel Nathaniel, who would have been, he finished 4th, he crossed the line 4th, would have been elevated to bronze. I guess that's open to interpretation. I mean, what happened in this situation? The meet referee called it a disqualification. And then before USATF even protested, there's a video referee that goes in and reviews, and they overturn that initial decision. Then there were protests from Brazil and Qatar and Nigeria, I believe. All of them were denied. So Benjamin's the champion. But Robert, do you think this was the right outcome ultimately?
Yes, I do. I'm shocked that this is the outcome, though, to be honest, because look, right when the race was finished, they kept saying this isn't official. I'm like, what happened? It must be something big involving a big person, because they kept saying it on the loudspeaker. And then we quickly figured out what had happened. And I thought, okay, is he impacted? And he cleared that hurdle. The Nigerian guy cleared the last hurdle fine. And I was like, okay, this didn't impact the race. Benjamin was way, way, way ahead. He deserves to win. But then when you see, and Nathaniel's only 0.05 behind third, like, that's very close. So is it 0.05 of a second? Because, you know, the hurdle's a little bit off. I don't think so. Honestly, I know 500 seconds sounds like nothing, but we've seen guys in the 800 micro A reps like only 0.06 in the first round up. He's like, oh, I knew I had it. So I'm surprised that he got away with it, to be honest. But I kind of, I don't know. I do want some discretion in some of these rules. I've always asked for that. Like, I think that in general, some of these rules are too harsh. Like, the only outcome is DQ. But in this one, it's kind of hard. Like, if you put a hurdle and someone, like, you know, if it's in the second hurdle, you'd have to DQ him because you would throw the whole rhythm of the rest of the race off. So I think that he shouldn't do it. Now, I saw on Twitter, on X, excuse me, and I listened to it, but his Nigerian accent is so strong. Ezekiel Nathaniel said that it didn't impact him, and he didn't think he should be DQ'd. So I've listened to this. Chris Chavez has it on Twitter. I tried to listen to it. I didn't hear what he said, but that's what they're claiming he said. So kudos to him. Class act if that's true, because he could easily say 0.05 of a second. I mean, Robert Farkin thought it didn't impact him at the time, but then you watch the tape and like, sometimes the athlete maybe is wrong. Like, well, I didn't think it impacted me, but maybe it did. I mean, 500 seconds is a tiny, tiny amount. So it's, you know, kind of a bizarre ending to this. And one thing I was wondering about was if he hadn't hit the hurdle, would he have gotten the world record? I mean, he's point. Did this slow him down by point? What's the world record? 45.91?
94. Did it slow him down by half a second? I don't know. I mean, he was already starting to tie up. The reason he hit the hurdle is because he said, like, that's the most lactic I've ever felt at that point in a race. Like, he was running with piano on his back. So, and then, Robert, you said he deserved to win. I mean, he did build up an enormous lead, but
well, no,
the challenge of the 400-meter hurdles is there are hurdles, and you have to clear all 10 of them. And he did clear it, but in such a way that it shifted the hurdle in the next lane. Ultimately, I don't think it really affected Ezekiel Nathaniel, but I don't know. If he was DQ'd, I don't know if I would be saying this is like the greatest travesty. Like, I think there is a case for a DQ. I'm okay with the results as being as they are, I think, but I can see just saying, like, oh, look, the fact that because I asked Rai about it, it was very interesting hearing him process it, because he said, yeah, I was celebrating, and then he got a crown. He was wearing it from the stands, and he was sitting next to Dos Santos and Samba, and they're like, he's like, where are the medals? Like, usually you get the medals immediately after the race. These guys, they weren't getting many medals, and they're like, I think there was, you know, some sort of issue. Like, they're looking into the results of the race, and then they find out, yeah, right, you were the guy in disqualified, and he hears it from some of his, you know, his support team in the stands about what happened, and he's kind of, it's like weird for him, and then he sees, oh no, you're the champion again. So this all plays out before he gets to the mix zone, but he actually still wasn't totally sure what the infraction was. So he gets to the mix zone, and I'm trying to walk him through it and explain, you know, you hit this hurdle. He's like, well, how much did I move it by? And it's like, well, it was a few inches. And then I think it was a Norwegian journalist showed him like a still image. And this was the first time Rai saw exactly how much the other barrier moved in Nathaniel's lane. And he was like, oh, you know, he kind of recognized, like, that's a significant move. But he is the world champion, and he's now the world and Olympic champion. Not a great race for Warholm. He said he tweaked something coming out of the blocks, it sounded like. And, you know, he basically just said, you know, it ended up being a bad race. He hit hurdle 3, which you could tell, you know, if you're hitting hurdle 3, something's up, because you should still have a lot of energy at that point in the race. He said, yeah, I had something happen when I got out of the block, a little strain in my left thigh. I don't know if it's a hamstring or a knee. Trying to hurdle with it wasn't good. A disaster. I knew I was good, and that's why this outcome is disappointing. It's just shit. So he wasn't pleased with his result. Obviously, that threw him off. But credit to Benjamin. He did run a great race, but that last hurdle, we do have those controversies every so often at the World Championships.
Yeah, I think when Worlds is done, I'm gonna have to come up with. I'm a man of principle. I like to have the same principle, not change it based on this is an American, this is not an American. I want some common sense in the rule book. Like when those people in the steeplechase are celebrating because someone stepped on the line. You step on the line one time in the middle of a 2-mile race. That's an absurd DQ. This one, I mean, I can see why they would have DQ'd him. I can. But talking to Warholm, I guess he did talk to meet organizers. I was the only one, sometimes people say, Robert, you don't have any tact. And I'm like, well, thank God. Because, Warholm spoke to the Norwegian press. And then the media handler is like, well, he's not speaking to the English press. I'm like, can we get a few words in English? He's like, no. And so I just followed him down the hallway. And I was like, try it again. Like 50 yards later, I was like, can we please just do it for 30 seconds? And they're like, Warholm's like, come on, let me do it. And he's like, okay. I mean, like what is he getting ready for? Anyways. So what he told me was, he's like, look, right at the start, right when I got out of the box, I felt something in the back of my knee and it cramped up. And he's like, you're not feeling well. Like if you're injured, you're not going to hurdle well. It's not going to be a rhythm. And then he's like, and I just smashed the third hurdle. So he was very disappointed, obviously. So that was the 400 hurdles. The Femke Bowl, I didn't speak to her because we ran upstairs to watch the 200s, right? But I'm probably not going to be the flash quote here. But what I was curious about was, she's undefeated on the year. She's never lost a Diamond League. She only loses to Sydney. She did lose last year, Anna Cockrell, but I think that was because she went out so hard, tried to force the race to beat Sydney. Today, she runs like 51.5, which, is pretty good, but it's not her personal best. And I'm wondering, do we think that she took a safety, knowing I don't have to go crazy, go a little bit relaxed for the first 200 and get the win?
I mean, certainly compared to Paris last year, I don't know. She did what she needed to do to win the World Championship, which I think is what you should do. She races enough that she can go for fast times on the circuit. Usually her fastest times, I think, do tend to come in the championships. But look, in a situation like this, you don't take even though the Sydney McLaughlin Lavroni isn't in your event, you don't take anything for granted at the World Championships. You do the best strategy that will get you the gold medal, and that's what Femke Bowl did. So, yeah, I don't know if you're trying to have any sort of veiled criticism for not running faster or trying to run faster. But...
No, it wasn't a veiled criticism. I was just wondering if that's what she was doing.
Yeah.
I did break again some more news in the mixed zone. I do sometimes think okay, what am I here for? What if I wasn't here? If you're going to spend thousands of dollars, you might as well get information that you wouldn't get otherwise. So Delilah Muhammad ended up, I think, 7th in the final. She's been having a resurgent year, and we're like, well, was this your last? She said she was retiring, and I'm like, well, this is your last race. What do you think of your career? And she's like, well, my team's got some. We've got more to say on that later. So she did not rule out the fact that I'm like, well, what other race would there be? And then I thought, well, wait, maybe she's going to come back for another year. So Delilah Muhammad may not be retired. So that was kind of interesting. And she's like, look, I really thought I could PR this year. So I had a great year, but I just didn't PR.
The other thing, actually, speaking of breaking news, Robert, Rai Benjamin says he's running the 200 and the 400 next year. No hurdles races.
Says, Noah, watch out, I'm coming.
Yeah.
But Muhammad said that she, warming up, had some major issue. You can find the video on YouTube. And her team didn't even want her to start. But she's like, I just figured I'd try it. So she was battling injury, she said, which is ironic because she's been healthy all year. So Fountain of Youth, she wants that PB. Maybe she'll be back next year.
Hey, I support any athlete who is older than me continuing their career and making me feel slightly less old. So keep it going, Delilah.
So, that's the hurdles.
Should we talk about this 200? This was a great race.
Correct. Well, the women's race was not great if you wanted, a close finish, but it was dominant. and she's been dominant all year. Can we just give a shout out to Melissa Jefferson-Wooden? I mean, is this the largest margin of victory in World Championship history? We'll let John try to figure that out. But what a performance. I mean, you win a race, but you win a global final. These are supposed to be the best people in the world. And she wins by like, I think it was almost half a second. It might have even been more than half a second.
I think it was more than that. It was just a colossal margin of victory. So the largest margin of victory before this year was 0.53 of a second by Allyson Felix in Osaka in 2007. And the margin of victory tonight, let me just look this up, was 0.46.
So not quite the largest.
So almost the largest, but just a complete blowout. And yeah, this is a near perfect season. I think Melissa Jefferson-Wooden, it was a perfect season in the 100 meters. She lost once to Gabby Thomas in the 200 meters, but she's the new queen of the sprints. And it's unfortunate that Julian Alfred had that injury that ruled her out of the 200 and, probably limited her a little bit in the 100, because they did have a great showdown at the pre-classic earlier this year. Maybe we get Sha'Carri healthy and ready to go in the 100 again next year. Maybe Gabby Thomas comes back. I don't know if it means she's necessarily going to just take over the sprints and become unbeatable, but you look at these performances, 10:61 in the final in the 100, and then a 21:68 PB. I mean, this is an athlete who's been racing since April, yet they timed the peak absolutely perfectly. Her best performances were when it mattered the most. I don't think it's hyperbolic to say this is one of the best seasons we've ever seen from a female American sprinter. First woman to sweep the 100 and 200 worlds since Chaulier and Fraser-Price in 2013. Just start to finish, Melissa Jefferson-Wooden was absolutely sensational.
And by the way, you talked about Gabby Thomas and how she lost to Gabby Thomas. Well, she ran a lot faster than Gabby Thomas did last year. I think Gabby Thomas was like 21:81 last year to win the Olympics. Now, that was into a headwind. But, impressive stuff.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk about the men's 200 row because that was, again, this was a fantastic race. Now, no one ran faster than Noah Lyles 1951 from the semis, and maybe that's because some of these guys, well, Noah didn't run faster. Bryan Levell actually did run faster than his semifinal time. He did great, but it was terrific because Noah, after the semis, said, I wanted to do that to send a message to show no one's going to beat me to the first 100 meters. Well, Noah actually went out faster for the first 100 tonight than he did last night, 10:12 versus 10:13. Two guys beat him to the 100-meter mark, though. Bednarek and Bryan Levell, 10:03 for Levell through 100 on the ton. I mean, that's really moving. So they got the lead, and Lyles was third coming off the curve. But I saw that. I'm like, okay, but this is Noah Lyles. This is one of the best 200 guys I've ever seen. This is how he wins races, is running people down. He doesn't break form. He doesn't panic. He's just smooth, powerful, controlled the entire time. I'm just like, I've seen this race too many times before. He's going to get them. My only question really was, does Tebogo have something else up his sleeve that we haven't seen yet? And Tebogo ran his best race of the season, but he ran 1965. It wasn't even good enough to get on the podium. That's how deep this race was. We'd never seen a race before with more than two guys under 19.7 seconds. This one had four guys under 19.7. So Lyles wins it 1952. Kenny Bednarek is the Celeste Sahine of the men's 200 now. He's got 4 silver medals across the last 5 championships. Bryan Levell, breakthrough season, still only 21 years old. Bronze medal, 1964 PB. Certainly already one of the best in the world, but this guy, massive potential. He's going to be fun to watch for the next decade. And then Tebogo, 1965. This was not peak Tebogo. He said afterwards that he'd been battling this injury, the muscles behind his knee, essentially all season. It had been stop and start. That's why he took some time off earlier this year. He said he didn't feel it tonight, but it had impacted the season that he wasn't able to sort of prepare the way he wanted to. So he was actually quite proud to finish 4th, given some of the injury setbacks he's had.
And you wonder, like, he was racing so early in the season to try to pick up the money. He probably doesn't, his endorsement deals aren't as big as Lyles. Did that hurt him? But one thing, John, you were in the press conference. I heard, I'm interested in what Lyles said there. On the loudspeaker, when he was being interviewed by the Japanese lady for this in-stadium crowd, like, what do you think of the race? And he's like, I wish I knew the exact word. He's like, we rewrote the Olympics. We basically implying that, like, he didn't win there, he got the right outcome here, and like it was like a do-over. And I'm like, no, that's not the way it works. Like, the Olympics are bigger for the public, and you can say you did it over, but you'll never be the 2021 Olympic champion. And thank God he won that 100 last year, because he's one of the world's all-time greatest 200-meter runners. But it's quite possible that 2028, even though it's the home Olympics, are we certain that Levell may not be up there?
Oh, I mean, Lyles has been one of the best in the world at 2 Olympics. He's had a real shot to win 2 Olympics. By the time of LA 28, he will have just turned 31. So I think he'd still be young enough to be in the mix, but he's going to be on the downswing. I don't think he's going to be, could he get in the 19.5 still? Maybe, but that's quite a while. And the 31 in sprinting times, it's question marks. And can he stay injury free? That's the other question. He had an injury this year. Usually he hasn't had many major injuries since most of his 2017 season was wiped out. But Robert, I will push back on what he said in the in-stadium, because I asked him specifically, did this feel like redemption for Paris last year when you got beaten, you had COVID? And he said not really. The Olympics and World Championships, they're sort of on parallel paths, but they're different. The Olympics is bigger, and he said winning this.
Well, good for him then. Because nice, I didn't like kind of the way it came across in the main stadium.
No, he said there will always be a hole in his heart, or to something to that effect, where that 200-meter gold medal should be for the Olympics. So that's still driving him to LA.
Well, right. And it would be an amazing story if he capped it at a home Olympics. And it would be somewhat similar. You say, he's going to be aging and on the decline, but it would be very similar to me to Michael Johnson in his prime, because Michael Johnson was supposed to be the golden one in Barcelona, got food poisoning, disappointed, and then came back at another Olympics, 96, home Olympics, and was absolutely amazing. And let's see how old Michael Johnson was.
I think wasn't he 33 when he won in Sydney 2000? He would have just turned 33. But
he was 29 when in the or 28 or probably 28 when he set all those world records.
Yeah, Noah's the best ever. The problem is Levell and Tebogo.
Noah's the best ever. No.
Sorry, not the best ever. Sorry, sorry. One of the best ever. Bolt's the best ever. No sacrilege intended. But he's one of the best ever. At the same time, Tebogo and Levell, and there's probably going to be some new talents popping up in this event as well between now and LA 28. And they're going to be significantly younger, and still, their upside over the next few years is probably higher than what Lyles is. They might not ever get to 1931 like Noah did, but I don't think Noah's going to be able to do that by 2028.
Right. Well, that's the sprint action. By the way, if you're just joining us, I am Robert Johnson. This is Jonathan Gold. This is a little special live edition from Tokyo of Track Talk. It's a weekly podcast that we have on letsrun.com. If you join our supporters club, you get a bonus podcast every week. You get a daily bonus podcast from Worlds, the Olympics, etc. Support independent journalism. Join the supporters club today at letsrun.com/subscribe. Speaking of supporting independent journalism, shout out to AGZ. They and AG1 have been supporting the website. This is a new sleep supplement that tries to work with your body, not against it. I wish I had brought some of the stuff with me, because this 13-hour time difference is still killing me, and we're about to head back. So right when I get used to it, I'm going to be heading out of here. But, after we break down these 800 semis in the men's 5,000 prelims, John and I can talk a little sushi. We went to a sushi restaurant today. We also spent some time with the LetsRun.com Coach of the Year, Chris Capo, Cooper Luckenhouse's coach. We'll share some insight of that and more. But all right, let's go to the
We've got a request here in the chat for the men's 5K, so we may as well go to the men's 5K semis.
Thank you. So look, the first heat was up. I mean, the first heat was fast. And John, you were in the stadium when this one was going off. I was just waiting in the mix zone, watching on TV, and they kept showing field events. So who was pushing the pace early on?
The first heat, Cole Hocker was the one who was leading. And then Almgren took over, and Almgren ended up running out of it at the end. But yeah, Hocker went to the front and, was content. He took it through fairly. It was like 4:22 or something at 1600. So yeah, that's how it played out.
That's kind of surprising to me, to be honest. One of the things I was so the first heat, it was top 8 in each heat. There's no time qualifiers, which I like, but they're running 13-13. I mean, you had to run 13-14 to get in. 7 guys run 13-13. An 8th guy runs 13-14. Andres Almgren, who medaled in the 10K, is out at 13-16. Wabalo, Switzerland, is also out. Nordes is out. Jakob Kropp, who's not been running well. Kenya is out. And El Bakali. Kuma Gurma of Ethiopia just dropped out in the middle of the race, and El Bakali did not start. So
yeah, two countries, by the way, got all 3 athletes to the final. The U.S. was one of them. Can you name the other without looking at the results, Robert?
Probably Australia.
No.
France.
Okay. Not Kenya, not Ethiopia. The French and the Americans.
So I don't know. I mean,
no. Your reaction. Tell me your reaction. You were freaking out about one thing happening in this race, and you were very pleased about it.
Well, right. When I was, I started paying attention to the end. About a mile to go, I look up. I was like, oh, to me, this is just my stream of consciousness while I'm watching this. I'm like, oh, Nico doesn't look great to me. Now, the problem is Nico never looks good. He's always looks like he's tired. When I talked to him afterwards, he said the opposite. He's like, I said, how are you feeling things after the 10K? He's like, I'm feeling more confident, which I thought was surprising. Like, I thought he would be a little disappointed he didn't medal. He's like, you can see it on YouTube. He's like, for some reason, he's more confident after the 10K than he was coming in here. So, you shouldn't read that much into it, but I was just extremely impressed by Isaac Kameli. And I was looking at him, full disclosure, because I've got about $75 on him at like 150 to 1. Whatever the odds are, I get $5,000 if he wins this race. And he blasted Fisher. This is a 31-year-old whose best finish in any global final, I think, was 8th last year. And I mean, he's just been an also-ran for a long time. And he blasted Grant Fisher in Stockholm, just blew his doors off. Completely impressive.
Outkicked.
And then he also won in Houston and has just been winning things this year. And he was impressive. He outkicked Hocker. He outkicked Fisher. I know you don't need to win the heat, but he was impressive. I talked to him afterwards. He's like, yeah, I'm feeling really good. He said he got a new coach. He couldn't really, he didn't have like a big explanation. He's like, I don't really do double threshold. So listen to the interview, but he's not really, maybe the coaching change or whatever, but the guy's on fire. The guy's on fire.
Yeah, Robert, I mean, we've been caught off guard by a few of the winners at this meet. Jimmy Gressier in the 10K, Isaac Nader in the 1500. If Isaac Kameli wins the 5,000, I'm not going to be caught off guard. I didn't predict him to win, but I think in the prediction contest, I did adjust him to medal. And we saw it in Lausanne. The dude can close. He can close in 25.5, dusted Grant Fisher and everyone else in those conditions. Like you said, he's been winning. He hasn't run. That was, I believe, the only Diamond League he ran this season. Sorry. Yep. Lausanne was the only Diamond League he ran. He won Houston easily. He won the European Team Championship second division. And then he won his heat tonight. So he's won all 4 of his 5,000 races this year. And he's got a fast close. So look, if it goes tactical, like pretty much all the distance races have at this meet, he's going to be in contention.
And there were some surprising names that went out. I was also surprised by Matthew Kipsang of Kenya, who was second here. I mean, I thought Kenya had no shot in the 5,000. This is a 29-year-old kind of journeyman, 335, 1,500 meter PB, had never broken 13 flat until this year. He ran 12:58, but he was never run on the Diamond League. Well, I guess he ran Barcelona. Anyways, he was 17th in the pre-classic 10K this year, and he was second in the heat. So would he win? No, but could he medal? I guess. But look, Hocker's in. and Young were in, and we don't know what Hocker feels about things, though. We don't know what he thought about the DQ. He didn't speak to media, so we'll have to wait to the final to find that out. Second heat is, obviously had Grant Fisher in it, and he didn't have any problems getting in there. But the teenage wonder. I mean, look here, the heat was won by Benny Mahari, and if you're looking for sort of a breakout star, I've been saying this all summer. This is the guy. Like Barahu Aragawi was Grant Fisher's worst nightmare in the 10K over the years. Is there a new Ethiopian in this case? He's only 18. He was 6th at the Olympics last year. He's run, some sick times, 12:45 and 26:37, and won the Ethiopian 10,000 trials, but ran the 5,000 here. And I sort of, when he only got 5th in the Zurich Diamond League final in the 3,000, 7:37, that was his first race since July 5th. I kind of sort of lost faith in him, but he looked good today. He won the heat. He speaks great English. You can check out the interview I did with him. He sounded confident, so he's been working on his kick, blah, blah, blah. So I was kind of thinking like, okay, he's not doing well in the 3,000 in Zurich. Why would he do well in a championship 5,000, which often turns into a 3,000? But I don't think you can rule him out. The big news in this heat really was Niels Laros. This is the guy that was the favorite for the 1,500, according to the bookies, did not medal. Could he do it here? He's a 13-10 guy. If Cole Hocker's got a good shot, you think this guy would have a good shot. He was up front, John, and then just sort of pulled up. You said that you thought he got spiked?
No, I watched the replay. I don't think he got spiked. I think that might have been a after effect of an injury. I asked his agent, Jerome Backer, and he said it was a left calf Achilles injury.
God.
I think he pulled up but he was in the middle of the pack when he felt it. So then he kind of got spiked and he ended up just walking off, and devastating way for him to end the championships, because this was his shot. He would have had a shot at a medal in a slow race. So rough one for Niels.
Well, but this is interesting to me. And I used to always say this at Cornell when I was coaching. Okay. Let's say you underperform on Saturday and you come into practice on Monday and you tell me you're sick. I'm like, well, maybe you were sick on Saturday. Like your body was already feeling it, fighting it off, but you weren't showing it until then. So maybe he was already, this calf was, maybe he didn't even feel it, but sort of subconsciously, but that was impacting him because his kick was not what we expected in that last 100. So this is interesting to me. I sure hope it's not long term, but he's super young, and everyone's going to have to wait 2 years.
All right, I can't believe you haven't mentioned the name Jakob Ingebrigtsen yet, Robert. He was in this heat, and some of us were wondering, why is he doing this? But he said,
why is he doing it?
Because he didn't run very well in the 1,500, Robert. Some people wondered, should he pack in his season? But he said, look, he's healthy. He's just not in great shape right now. So he wanted to go out, give it a shot. He made the final. He was the last guy in. It didn't look easy, but he was there, kicking alongside a couple other guys. Golvier Singh was the guy behind him from India who missed out in the final by 0.19. Jakob's in, and he was pretty realistic about where he's at. He knows he's not in great shape. He said, I gave my all. I'm not myself. I had to do what I could today. I was not sure I would make the final, but here I am. This is one of the most confident guys of his generation. He's saying, I wasn't sure I was going to qualify for the 5K final, the event he's won 3 years in a row. I don't have any idea what I'm going to do in the final. I will try my best. Can it be a medal for Norway? I don't know. Maybe. We will see. I don't give him much chance of doing anything, but I'm glad he's in the final. And man, if he's still there with a lap to go, things could get interesting. But I'm just not sure he has the speed, because I think it's going to be a kicker's race like we've seen in some of these other championships. And that's why I wanted to make a point about Grant Fisher, because he did the classic Grant Fisher move in this race. He went to the lead with 3 laps to go and started grinding from the front. They ended up closing in 3:56 for the last 1,600 meters, and then 2:54 for the last 1,200. So it was pretty quick, but Grant was saying, yeah, I was hoping that I would drop some people and maybe I wouldn't have to really kick that much the last lap, but that didn't really happen. And that to me shows you how difficult it's going to be in the final if for anyone to sort of make a move and try to really break people and string it out from a few laps to go. Because this was 3:56. Now it was a 13:42 race. It wasn't very fast, but 3:56 last 1,600, and very few people were shaken by this. So you either have to go a lot faster or you need to go from a lot farther out. And neither of those are easy things to do. So I asked Grant, I was trying to get him to show his cards for the final and what his strategy would be. And he admitted his best case scenario would be for someone else to pick up the pace and sort of shake some of the kickers. But he also admitted, I can't just rely on someone else doing that. My race plan, it has to be dependent on someone doing something I'd like them to do. So he said everything is on the table in terms of strategy for the final. So we'll see. He medaled last year. This is America's last hope. Well, them and Sage Hodeklecka in the 800. She did make the final, so she's still alive for a medal. Made it on time, but I think Hocker's got a very good chance to get a medal in here, and we'll see about Fisher and Young. But I think the U.S. Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't shock. Hocker is the betting favorite, I think, in some establishments at least.
I think Gressier, but yeah, Hocker's. I think we had two of the top four. I mean, with Fisher, but I think Fisher was extremely lucky. But if you take Jakob out, that's one of the medals. So I thought Fisher, go back and watch last year's Olympics. He was way back at the bell. He was never in it for the win, and then he just kicked a lot of guys down who mistimed it and got the bronze. But if he runs for just a medal, he might be able to get one. If he pushes the pace, maybe he can medal. I don't see how Fisher wins this race. Someone else would have to push it. I just don't think anyone's really going to push it. And there was an interesting thread on Letsile on Simpson. It's like, to get the Lyles and the Hockers out of this, you got to you should try to hammer the prelim. That'll be interesting. Just hammer the prelims. But I just don't think even that, Hocker's good enough that he's not going to get dropped in one of these races. And normally, Jakob's not going to get dropped. Now, Jakob might get dropped in this thing, but David Minter on YouTube is saying Jakob's trying to pull the Adam Goucher. That's true. 2000 U.S. Olympic trials, Adam Goucher, 13:44, got in the final on time, and then he won it in the final in 13:27. So I'm not ruling Jakob out for a medal. If he wins it, though, this is an all-time. Just
seriously, we'd be talking about, remember the year Jakob bombed out in the 1500 first round and then won the 5K? That's why I probably don't think it's going to happen, but been wrong about plenty in this meet already. A couple other things. Who is the guy most likely to push the pace in the final? I think it's probably George Mills. He doesn't mind running at the front. We've seen him do it at some European finals. I could see him making that move.
I think he'll go first, and then Fisher will try to keep it going.
I think that's really. I mean, if you'll go out Fisher, do you just call up George Mills and say hey, any chance we could maybe tag team this thing? Or I think that's the ideal scenario for Fisher is Mills takes it and starts picking it up, and then Grant comes over the top with a bigger move. I'm looking at the Ethiopians, Gebrewet, and I don't think Gebrewet will do it. He'll probably make some stupid early move with 500
and people,
to go.
And then when they don't win, people are going to blame it because they didn't push it. But even if I knew my guy didn't have the best kick, I'm still not, if I'm coaching these people, I'm not sure I'm telling them to shove it down because I just don't know if you're good enough to do that. And you can come from way behind. I mean, we saw it with, when Hocker won USA's, he was 7th at the bell. We saw Jordy Beamish coming from way behind. So if you time it right and just, whatever, but I think some of these guys it's going to be interesting.
Also, shout out to, we had someone mention him in the chat, Valentin Soca of Uruguay, who ran at Cal Baptist this year, 4th in the NCAAs, been having a great season, has run 7:34 and 13:02 this summer, and he qualified, with relative ease. He was 5th, right ahead of Grant Fisher in the second heat of the 5,000. So he's in the World Championship final, a guy who was in college in the U.S. this season. So nice work for Uruguay. Big meet for Uruguay. 5,000 meter finalists and a medal in the women's marathon.
It is weird that David Minter's pointing out George Mills has got one of the fastest 1,500 PBs, except for Hocker in the field, and he doesn't like slow races because he can't really kick. So kick and the 1,500 speed aren't necessarily the same, but Anyways, one other thing, Luis Grijalva did not start. So, he and Abdelhamid Noor have been sort of battling the injury bug with Mike Smith this year. Grijalva's a good example. This guy was fourth twice at the global stage. So there's a lot of people that can be in it that you might not necessarily be expecting, to be in it for a medal. I know he's never medaled. But, all right, women's 1,500. John said we only have
women's 800.
Sage Hurta-Clucker. We also have Shelby Houlihan.
I think that. Good point. I'm sorry. I was kind of writing off her chances because of Kipyegon and Chibet. I mean, she can outkick Gudov-Sagayo Batakledi, but she is still alive for a medal as we speak. And she said she wants a tactical race because she used to be a great 1,500 meter runner. She did medal at World Indoors, so this is a Lloyd Christmas. So you're telling me there's a chance type situation.
Women's 800 semis. Mary Murat, Georgia Hunter Bell went 1-2 in the first heat. Certainly not a surprise. Natoya Goldtoppen, I always say she's been around for so long. Jamaica, former NCAA runner at Clemson. If she ever medaled, it would be just like the ultimate stick-to-it award. She's been eliminated. She was only fifth. But the only surprise here, I guess, would say Mary Murat has looked a lot better at Worlds than she has the rest of the year. Grand Slam track, she was trashed most of the time, but she did win one of those eights. But she's looked pretty good here. So
yeah, no, she's a total wild card. I don't think she's going to beat Keeley because the Keeley we've seen this year has been 154 shape, and I'm not even sure. Murat in Budapest 2023 was in ridiculous shape. She didn't run a strong tactical race in that one and still won it. But yeah, I don't think she'll challenge Keeley. I think certainly she could get the silver or the bronze, though. And we do have, there are a number of women who've stepped up and raised their game. If you look at the other two Kenyans, Lilian Odira won her semifinal. The second one ran 156. And then Sarah Murat was second in her semifinal and 157.5 instead of PB, just behind. Her and Keeley had the same time. So there will be three Kenyans in the final. I think all of them have a shot to medal.
Yeah, the Kenyan women are cleaning up on the medals. Kenyan men, not so much. Yeah, Odira is interesting, 26, and sort of burst onto the scene last year, 158 in the Olympic semis. She ran, according to Stopcha, our results database, she ran 204 back in 2016. Then we have 214, 214 in 2018, 2019, 210 in 2023. And then somehow 8 years after her 204, she gets good last year, runs 158, and now is down to 156. So she was 204 as a 15-year-old. No, excuse me, 17-year-old. And then is now running quite well. So that's, they certainly can medal. And then so in the second heat, you had Odira and then Audrey Guerrero, the second fastest woman in the world this year. They were both two automatic qualifiers. Jessica Hull got third. She was thrilled. She's already medaled in the 15. The pressure's off. She got the Australian record, 157.15. So she was just smiling.
She looked more excited after getting third in the 800 semis, not even knowing if she had advanced yet, than she did after she got the bronze medal in the 1500. It was crazy, but it was.
I just think it was fun because, we get so caught up in the medals, and sometimes you can't control. You can run the race of your life, and somebody else beats your medal. So the internal challenges of doing your best, the same things that you and I do in races. She was just thrilled by that. That was awesome. And then Sage Hurta-Clucker ran really well behind her, edged Segumi Duguma of Ethiopia. Ethiopia's got no one in the final. Hurta-Clucker beat you by 0.08, 157.62. I think she missed her PB by just 0.08. It was a seasonal best for Hurta-Clucker, and she was like, I ran really well. It's almost the best I've ever run in my life. So obviously, I was content with that. And then she gets in the final because the third place was 158. And, the way I see the final, though, is I'd be stunned if Keeley loses. She's a smart racer. She's been so much better than everybody else. But after that, I would put I mean, Mary Murad's been doing good. Odera, Wero.
Hunter Bell's been looking good. Yeah, it's.
I would be coming in. I was kind of thinking, okay, the training partners might go 1-2. To be honest, I would be surprised if Hunter Bell got second. I think she's a smart runner. I could see her nipping some people for third, but we'll see.
Well, the one thing I'm curious about is like, does Murad get in there and fluster people? And I think Keeley has raced her enough that she used to throw off her game with her unorthodox tactics, but now I think Keeley can run her own race. But I do wonder if Murad does something wild, some other women get sucked into it. I think Hunter Bell could maybe benefit from that because she likes to go back and run her own race from sort of the middle or the back of the pack. So that would be something to watch, is how does Mary Murad do? But I would expect Keeley to get to the front and try to control it like she did in Paris last year.
All right. In other news today, John and I finally did something Japanese. We went to a sushi restaurant for lunch with a Supporters Club member who treated us. We've been treating the Supporters Club members with the free beers and stuff like that. So thank you very much. That was a lot of fun. And then
it's delicious. We had sake. The way they pour the sake was also cool because they put it in this really nice little wooden box and they pour it so that it overflows because they want, it's a sign of respect, I think. And
yeah, it's pretty cool.
You drink the sake, and then when you finish, you drink it from the box as well. It's a small box, but it was good. I like the sake. The sushi was sensational. Really terrific meal. I'm glad we did it.
Yeah. There's just like about a 1% to 2% chance that our friend, the Supporters Club member, was just playing a joke on us and told us. So they filled the drink up. It overflows into the box. And he's like, yeah, you're supposed to drink it out of the box. So we did. I'm like, okay. I'm like, how do you know? He's like, the internet told me. No one laughed. Like the chef did not laugh. He didn't laugh. So yeah. I think it's legitimate. Confirm if anyone's ever had sake out of a box. That's fine. And then, we had been texting with Chris Capo, Cooper Leckenhouse's coach, who's here. There's not, if you're here, you don't have like a lot of like people to hang out with. So we'd had him on the podcast, got along with him well, sent him some Let's Run t-shirts. And he's like, hey, you guys want to meet up? And he's like, yeah. So we went to this, what's the name of the district, John?
Golden Guy is the neighborhood, which is just a bunch of alleys where you've got about 1 million bars all packed together. Most of them only have about 5 seats.
It's kind of cool.
The first one we went into, Robert, if you were in the far seat, like the one furthest away from the entrance, you wouldn't be able to leave unless the 4 people to your right all left because the chairs were packed in so tightly. It was
it's
nuts.
Like these little narrow alleyways, and like this was like an 8-person bar. We wanted a little more space. We wanted a chair, so we went to a different one. But it was great to see him. He showed up. I mean, he was dressed to the T. Like, guy was wearing the most beautiful LetsRun.com.
Shaved head and beard. I mean, just what a look, Robert.
Yeah. We said this guy is like the perfect synergy of me and Jonathan Galton Weldon because he's got identical twins. He's a father of identical 3, but including identical twins. And then he's bald and from Massachusetts like John. So,
but now lives in Texas.
But no, it was fun to see him. And we just sort of like, I was asking, we're talking about the race and everything. And I was like, I said, he's overseas for the first time. And the tactics seem a little bit not great, but I was like, the only thing that disappointed me was he said that the workouts were insane. Like, you as the coach, would you agree? He's like, yeah. He's like, they were just better than they were before USA's. He's like, we were kind of doing some of the similar workouts. I'm like, okay, do this 200 and like 26 again. And he just would run it in 25. He's like, coach, that's not hard. So, but I thought interesting when talking to him, John, was just like, it does seem to me that, he said this on the podcast to us, that Cooper's extremely dedicated, does all the little things. And I do like how the way he was describing things, like Cooper can it seems like he's pretty good at like running by feel, trying to avoid injury, just these things that, like, I've always said, to be good at the 800, you have to have a sense of pace. And, you don't want to like necessarily force the time. You also got to have a sense of effort. So it sounds like he's very good at that.
One thing we said, Robert, and I think, we're okay to share this, is we sort of said, like, what if he did win the world title today, or this week? Would this, like, long term, is that really in his best interest? Obviously, you want to win, and like he comes to the meet wanting to win. But I told Chris Capo, I was like, look, if he wins, he has nowhere to go from that. You win the world title at 16, the expectations are with you for the rest of your life. And I think learning how to lose is a skill in this sport if you want to be in it for the long haul. The very best win more than they lose. But learning how to deal with defeat and have something to chase to motivate him, the next World Championships are 2 years. So he's got something to drive him for the next 2 years, saying, I don't want to feel the way I did in Tokyo. I don't want that to happen. So I think for his, obviously in the short term, he's going to be upset he didn't advance, even though he had a great season. But in the long term, I do think that, winning gold at 16, that's just, where do you have to go? What's driving? Like, how do you go from there in your career? So I think this isn't the worst thing in the world that he got a taste of defeat, even though it might not feel that way in the moment.
Yeah, I'm sure it's hard to take. I'm sure it's hard for Niels. I mean, Niels Laros is 20, but I was thinking about this the other day. Like, should you just treat it like? I mean, Niels Laros has an older brother that ran like D2. Like, just treat it like a normal loss. Like, okay, you didn't run your best, or you got hurt. Life goes on. And
well, that's hard to do, though.
I did ask. Well, yeah, because I mean, it's not quite the same, but I asked like the coach. I said, hey, can he run cross country? He's pro in track. I mean, to me, it's absurd. Like, we can pay college athletes now flat out. So why couldn't he still just go to college and run in college? But that's not the way the rules work. I guess that could change by the time he gets to college because he's only a high school junior now. He just started his junior year. But I was like, can he run high school cross country? He's pro in track, but does that apply to cross country? Coach said, yeah, he's not allowed to run cross country. So Cooper's not a big cross country guy anyways, but I think it'd be fun to be on the team. So his cross country, collegiate, maybe he could train for the World Cross Country in Tallahassee 4x2K, but appears to be over. So that was interesting. All right, people. Any questions in the chat box? We only have 2 more nights left. Can't believe it.
I mean, there was a comment at the start about Marilene Paulino's post-race comments last night about Sydney. We didn't discuss that on yesterday's podcast.
Oh, I put that down as my notes. So there's a great thread. Marilene Paulino throwing major shade at Sydney, and she is. I mean, she definitely is. So do we have the exact quote here? Try to pull it up.
I'll look for it, Robert. But essentially, she finished second, and I mean, that was such a good race for Paulino too. Like,
yeah, here's the quote.
47.9. It's unbelievable. But here's the quote, Robert.
I feel like the winner because I've spent 5 years in a row running 10 or 15 races. Running isn't just about doing 1 or 2. It's about being consistent, running a lot, because this is why sport exists, to compete, not to just challenge yourself twice a year. Wow.
That's translated from Spanish, but yeah, I mean, there are different approaches to the sport. Sydney's approach is, I'm not that interested in the regular season. Grand Slam track, she essentially admitted she was training through this year, but she's so good that she could still go to all those 400 hurdles races and clean up. She did the 100 and 110 100 and 100 hurdles. And what was going to race Paulino, to her credit, in LA before they canceled that. But the deal with Sydney is she's not going to place much emphasis in the regular season. She's going to do everything to get her ready to prepare for one meet, and that's the World Championships or the Olympics. And she's going to show up to that, and she's going to put on a show, and it's going to be amazing. But everything else in the year is secondary to that. Whereas Paulino, I mean, she also got her best performance of her season out of herself tonight, but she was running all these other Diamond Leagues, and she takes some L's along the way, and she's okay with that. She's out there competing and giving it a go. It's 2 different approaches to the sport. I think most fans like the Paulino approach more. I mean, it's great when you can do both. Paulino has a great championship record. She runs her fastest times in championships, but she also runs really well on the circuit. Some athletes are determined that's not a challenge, not something they want to do, or don't think it's something that they can feasibly do. It's 2 different approaches. Like I said, I think fans like to see their favorite athletes competing more, but with Sydney, her championship record's just so good that, yes, I think you can ding her a little bit, and she has raced a little bit more the last 2 years, but you also say, but her approach works so perfectly for these meets that are we really going to rip someone for getting the absolute best out of themselves in the biggest meets of the year, the one meet that everyone agrees matters way more than everything else? So it's, you can make either case.
If you're looking for facts, Paulino ran the 400 8 times this year, 8 different meets. Sydney's run it in 4 different meets. And then Sydney did also run the Grand Slam track when she ran the 100 hurdles one meet. So that you can say she had 5 major meets.
Sydney ran it, she ran the 400 hurdles. The flat 400 at 5 meets: Kingston, Miramar, Pre-Classic, USA's, and Worlds.
Oh, I've seen Eugene twice in a row there. So, 5 to 8, and then you could, then I guess if you're throwing in, Sydney will say, well, I also ran Grand Slam track 100 hurdles. That's 6 mates versus 8. But in other years, I'm sure it was even a bigger discrepancy. So, hey, the one thing that I think is worth pointing out is in other sports, your contract doesn't really impact your performance in the sense of if you're a baseball pitcher and you're making $10 million starting pitcher, you're making $10 million. If you're making $500,000, you're still going to start every 5th or 6th day. In track, there's some privilege, particularly for the American athletes, in the sense of their base deals are so much higher. Sydney's making millions a year that she doesn't need to race for money, whereas I'm assuming Paulino is not. And just the economic realities of it, you need to race more if you want to make more money, and that could hurt your overall performance if you're racing a little bit too much. So that's something to be dig about. Anyways, yeah, I do kind of think like, look, you can't. It's annoying that Sydney doesn't race more, but she's so damn good. We can't complain about it. We just can't do it. All right, tomorrow night. I guess it would be tomorrow morning for most of you.
Yeah, women's 5,000 meter final and men's 800 meter final. We're running out of track finals, people. We've only got the 800 and the 5Ks to go, and then, of course, the relays. So 2 days of competition left. Yeah, it's going to be fun. I mean, men's 800, no Americans, but it's still going to be interesting to see, can Wanyonyi add the world title to his Olympic title, or can someone else spring an upset? And then the 5,000, it's the race we've been talking about all championships. Beatrice Chebet, Faith Kipyegon, 2 of the greatest ever to do it, squaring off. Olympic champion, world record holder versus world record holder, Kenya versus Kenya, friend versus friend. This is Beatrice Chebet likes Faith Kipyegon so much that she went in the stands and watched and was, basically crying when she won the 1,500 meters. That's how much they get along. So, but for 15 minutes on Saturday night, they will be enemies.
And then one other thing about tonight that was amazing. The men's triple jump was unreal. There's been some great triple jump in recent years. Don't normally watch it, but it's you notice it when you're there. And if you were watching it on TV, I'm sure they probably did a good job of it too. But in the last round, Italy's Andrea Della Valle comes up huge. I think he was 4th heading into the last jump. 1764 PB, and he's going nuts. And Pedro Pichardo, this is the 2021 Olympic champion, 2022 world champion. He's won the silver like 1, 2, 3, 4 times. He just runs down that runway and lays out a huge one. 1791, world leader. I mean, coming into this meet, like his best mark all season was 1747, and there was no foul and there was no doubt. He landed and he just started flexing for the TV. Super impressive. Just like, wow, he didn't. I mean, it's like as distance runners, we don't know like what it's like. Like they don't need the tape measure. Like when we're watching on TV, we're seeing these fake lines. They just hit the sand like, okay, I won by a lot. And it was super impressive. And the Italian guy's like, what can I do? So That was really cool. Portugal, folks. Portugal. They're dominating. They have 2 golds.
Yeah, actually, I think at the end of the meet, we're going to have to do a post-mortem because I saw there were some stats from Bill Mallon and from the Sports Examiner as well, Rich Perelman, about the U.S. was not on track to win a ton of medals. I think it was 23, which would have been their lowest total since 2015. So I'll have to run all the numbers and see exactly where they stack up, and maybe they can get. I mean, they should get some in the relays the next few days, but yeah, it hasn't been the strongest event meet for the U.S., particularly on the track. Though you do have Melissa Jefferson-Wooden more than pulling her weight. Noah Lyles has got 2 medals there as well. Benjamin. I mean, tonight was 3 out of 4 golds on the track tonight in the sprints. So that definitely helps the ledger and might be trending more in the right direction now.
Yeah.
Okay, everyone.
I got to get some sleep, and folks, I'm having trouble sleeping. I wish I brought this AGZ. It's this nighttime drink. First of all, thank you AG1 and Z for sponsoring the second half of this coverage. It's a nighttime drink designed to support restorative sleep. Melatonin free. It's formulated to support your body's natural rhythm, not override it. So I'm going to get some of this when I get back to the States. Hopefully I can readjust to the time frame over there. But if you're listening, you really should be supporting us as well. Join the Supporters Club today. Let'sRun.com/subscribe. Let'sRun.com/subscribe. Papa F appreciates us, John, for staying up late. We've been staying up to like 4 or 5, and it's not like we're drinking. Like we finish this show at 1:30. We write the recaps till about 4.
Yeah. Well, thank you for tuning in all week, everyone. We appreciate you. We love interacting with you. Thank you if you're a member of the Supporters Club. And we got 2 more shows for you from Tokyo, so stick around.